Hello everybody, welcome back once again to the Tactics Ogre Reborn walkthrough. So here I'm going to throw in just a little bit of a random video because I wanted to talk about some of the items that I really procrastinated on, and I should have probably done this video a little bit earlier, but I think better late than never, right? So we're going to be talking Book of the Dead, Ring of the Dead, Ensanguined Rood, and Seal of Rebirth. The most important things to know, I think, is that the Book of the Dead and the Seal of Rebirth are basically worthless. There, I said it. Video over. Discussion done. Don't even need to worry. Okay, no, I'm kidding. I do think that these aren't something that you really need to worry all that much about. Book of the Dead starts dropping. Let me just see here. I think, is this right? Level 37 of Palace of the Dead? Yes. So that's the first battle that you'll start seeing them. And also, the battle that teaches you how to use them is on floor 22. So the Book of the Dead is the one item of these four that the battle that you actually learn it makes sense, right? You learn it on level 22, and then you can start getting them to drop on, what did I say, 30-something? No, I'm sorry, yeah, 37. Whereas the Ring of the Dead, the Ensanguined Rood, and the Seal of Rebirth technically start dropping in their dungeons. So Ring of the Dead drops here in Palace of the Dead. I'm not actually there right now, but Ring of the Dead drops in Palace of the Dead. Ensanguined Rood and Seal of Rebirth both drop in San Bronza. Again, the problem with these three items, though, is that they'll actually start technically dropping on floors that you haven't been taught how to use them yet. And so they won't actually drop that on that floor, right? Until you've seen that scene. So let's just say, like, Ring of the Dead, I think, again, it starts dropping in like the 30s somewhere. Like, I think it's late 30s. I'm sorry. I really need to reference this list because otherwise I'm gonna get bothered. Ring of the Dead. There we go. Okay, 33. So Ring of the Dead starts dropping on level 33, but the game does not teach you how to use them until level 44. So your initial trip through Palace of the Dead, you will not be able to actually get them on level 33. You'll have to see the battle or do the battle on level, again, I think it was 40, did I say 41? Yes, 41. Level 41 will teach you how to use the ring. Then, if you decide to withdraw from Palace of the Dead and enter, like re-enter, and then go down to level 33, they'll drop at level 33. I don't think that's the smart way to do that. I think that it makes a lot more sense to, if you're all the way on to level 41, you should really finish out Palace of the Dead, kill off Nibeth, and then get your palace guides. At that point, if you want more Rings of the Dead, I think the smarter thing to do is to enter, use Palace Guide 1 that takes you from level 1 to 25, or technically 26. Then use your second one to get from 26 to 50. And then you can get yourself a ring on level 50. I think it's 3. Yeah, 53. We'll drop another, Ring of the Dead for you. Also keep in mind all of these are unique, so once you have one of them, you have to use it in order to get another, which is maybe a little bit annoying, but actually it's very annoying. I don't know why they did that. It actually really doesn't make any sense why these are unique in the first place, but hey, whatever. I think they just did that to annoy people like me. So let's see, where are we at? Again, so Book of the Dead. Let's go back to the Book of the Dead. Again, I think that this is pointless. I don't actually think that this matters at all. From what I've read, and I don't know if things have changed between versions or if it's just always been this way, but from what I read, a lot of people seem to think that like undead units, so skeletons and ghosts, have worse stats than human units. Now, I didn't really see that big of a difference, like just overall. Sure, some stats, here or there might be a little bit less, but man, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough of a difference to really worry about having to use this, right? Like, let's just say that, and I did notice that I compared a human warrior, a zombie warrior, and an undead or a skeleton warrior. Their stats weren't that much different, and most of them were almost exactly the same, or like within, and of course there's always some variance, right, in the stats, but so minor that I didn't really notice it. There were only 2 stats. I thought it was like mind and then maybe dexterity, where I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's a pretty significant swing of like 10. But like in one case, the human warrior had less, again, let's just say dexterity, than my skeleton warrior. But my skeleton warrior had like 10 more mind than my human warrior. So I'm not convinced that there's that big, like, that it's worth it to, I guess, even use these things at all, right? Like, you may as well just recruit a skeleton warrior if you want one, right? Like, there's no sense in, okay, get a zombie, then, you know, use the Book of the Dead to make your zombie into a skeleton or whatever, right? I just don't think that really makes sense. The only thing where this may be something worthwhile to do is if, let's just say you've used a bunch of stat charms on a human, or you've picked up a lot of the green cards that have dropped on, you know, again, on a human. Well, then you can take that human, and if they get incapacitated in battle, you could use the Necromancer spell, Living Corpse, which is right here, to basically turn your incapacitated unit into a zombie, which you could then, you know, make into a skeleton or a ghost with the Book of the Dead. That's really the only reason why I think those are worthwhile. And I mean, it's basically the opposite, or the Seal of Rebirth works kind of in the opposite way, not 100%, right? Because it doesn't, not that I know of, I don't think it takes a zombie, right? I don't think this works on a zombie. Like, I don't think you take a zombie and just turn them back into a human, right? And why would you do that? Because a Charm of Remission would do that same thing, and it wouldn't take a unique item. But the only thing I could see the Seal of Rebirth for is basically a very similar scenario where you've picked up a lot of green card, like stat cards, or used a lot of stat charms on either a skeleton or a ghost, and you want to then make that into a human, right? That's the only reason why I think, or the only thing that I would say that this would maybe be, you know, kind of worthwhile for. But all right, anyways, let's talk Ring of the Dead and Ensanguined Rood. I think of these 4 items, these are really the only 2 that are really worthwhile. Let's start off with, actually, let's go into a battle here. We'll just go into the Feral Shore here, and I'm going to use, yeah, let's just take my zombie alone. One thing that I want to do, though, is grab my Crest of Fire and put it on this zombie, because these things are so slow. Actually, let's remove, yeah, we'll do this too. So we'll remove some gear here, because, you know, obviously this will add a bunch of weight that I don't need, because I'm just going to be sitting at the entrance and using these items back to back. So yeah, that looks good there. So let's go to battle. To battle! I'll just show you how to use these. Bing. Oopsies. Oops. I had AI on. Whoop. Chariot back. Alright. So let's move back here, and we'll just use the first item. So we'll use the Book of the Dead to move. So this is going to change in a zombie into just a skeleton unit. Your stats will stay the same, right? It won't, like, revert your stats or anything like that. And alright, so next up, so now you can see I am a warrior instead, and it does cancel out your skills. So one of the other reasons why, or like, this would have been a cool item had it functioned a little bit more like the Ogre Blade, where you get to keep your, you know, like, abilities. But that's not the case. Once you've used Book of the Dead to change into a skeleton, you lose, you know, whatever abilities that you had, and they don't carry over to your new class. If you want to know a little bit more about that, I'm planning on doing a body swap guide. But as of right now, again, in terms of this sort of process, there's no advantage in doing this, again, unless you've dumped a bunch of charms into, you know, one of these characters. And you want to kind of keep those, you know, stats. So that's the Ensanguined Rood. It basically takes an undead unit and makes it into a Divine Knight. Now, I'm going to retreat here. But one of the other fun things about this, and specifically the Ensanguined Rood, is that there's only 2 ways to get Divine Knights in the game. One is this route, right, where you take an undead unit and actually make it into a Divine Knight, or you can recruit them. The problem with recruiting them is there's only one level that you can recruit them, and that's San Bronza, level 3. Tower of Law, level 3. So it's the 3rd level. You actually can get them very early on. The problem with those Divine Knights is there's always Galgastanis. And if you don't have Chrysidia yet and you're worried about, you know, Chaos Frame, you know, to get her, and I think that's something to be mindful of, is that if you don't have Chrysidia, you don't want to be really using Galgastanis, because that tanks your Galgastani Chaos Frame, and your Galgastani Chaos Frame needs to be at 50 or higher. Actually, it might be higher, just higher than 50, in order to recruit her. So I just don't like to use Galgastanis. And so anyways, this process resulted in a Divine Knight that is from the Zenobia clan. So, you know, again, that's one way to at least get a Zenobian Divine Knight, right, and not have to worry about the whole Galgastani thing. It doesn't have to be a Zenobian, right? It just happened to work out this way for me. You could recruit, you know, other other skeletons and undead. You can see here, I've got a bunch of Bakram ghosts. Those would work, right? I'd be able to take this ghost, use the Ensanguined Rood to get a Divine Knight. I could use my skeletons. I've got Bakram, you know, skeletons as well that I could, again, make into Divine Knights. The question, though, maybe one of the interesting things about this is that Divine Knights also have very, very good stat growth. And so, actually, what you really want to do, ideally, is, and let's just reload here, because I don't want to waste my items. But one of the things that you can do here is enter this battle, and I think this is the best way, actually, to use an Ensanguined Rood. Let's just go back, actually. I'm looking for that zombie. The zombie, whatchamacallit? The zombie Zenobian is what I was trying to say. Oh, wow! Come on now. It's so obnoxious when they're not here. Oh, and I should swap over to my undead crew. My undead recruitment crew. Wow, okay. She's being really elusive here. Again, keep in mind we're at the, you know, Farampa Wildwood in the final area here. Well, not final area, but it's the Feral Shore. Alright, so here's the item, or the unit I was looking for. So this is a level 1 Terror Knight. Now, how do you get a level 1 Terror Knight? Well, you need a level 1 Lich, which means you need a Ring of the Dead, right? So basically all I did, excuse me, was to hire a unit from the, well, just hire one, right? In this case, it was a Bakram female, and I used a Lich Ring on it in battle. And then I just retreated. And that gets you the level 1 Lich. The reason why this is kind of cool is that Liches get their recruitment skill at level 1. All of the other recruitment skills are only obtainable at level 5. It's not that big of a deal, but hey, I thought it was cool, right? You can actually recruit things at level 1. So what you do here is you bring in your other level 1s. You need a couple of other ones, right? I mean, maybe you could solo this with your Lich, but you might as well grab some more. And because of the way that the Farampa Wildwood works is the enemy levels will always be they will always match your highest level. So if you only bring in level 1s, all of the enemies are going to be level 1s as well. So you can grab, and this skill that they've got, their recruitment skill, is kind of funny because not only it says you use it to recruit an Umbra. Umbras are usually just gremlins and orcs, but zombies are counted as Umbras as well. In this, it only works for liches, right? Because sure, this zombie would be able to be recruited with the regular recruit skill, but all of the classes that get the recruit skill only get it at level 5. So the only way to get a level 1 zombie is to have a level 1 lich. And have everybody else level 1s as well. Anyway, so why is this cool, right? Well, it allows you to recruit this level 1 Terror Knight, who is also of the Zenobian clan. Then you could take that that level 1 zombie, and let's just pretend, right, that this was my level 1 zombie, because yeah, just for reasons, right? Here, well, here's some level 1 zombies, I guess, right? And you could use the first you could use the Book of the Dead, then immediately after, because that'll turn the zombie into a actually it'll be a skeleton in this case. Then you could use the Ensanguined Rood, right? So what you're going to have at that point is you're going to have a level 1 Divine Knight. Well, the reason why that's so good is because then you get 50 levels of Divine Knight growth, right? Instead of, I don't know, whatever, if you recruit like a level 5 zombie, right? I mean, again, the differences are very minimal, but I at least wanted to point out that's one of the kind of cooler things that you can do also with the Ensanguined Rood. Alright, so that's pretty much going to be it. I don't think there's anything else that I really wanted to talk about. There's some interactions with the Ring of the Dead and the Ogre Blade, but I'm going to do a separate guide for that because that's going to be, all to do with body snatching, which is insane and very, very cool. But that will be in probably the next video. So as always, hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.